In this training video for ProCalV5, we will be covering entering master records. To start, we are going to click here on the Instruments section. Instruments in ProCal are defined as any item that is calibrated and may also have additional maintenance activity that is defined to it. Starting with the Instrument ID section up here on the top left, ProCal will manage an unlimited number of assets, and every asset gets its own unique identifier. It can be any combination of letters and numbers up to 32 characters that a user wishes to define for it, and it can never be duplicated. You may add a brief or detailed description, and the rest of the information on this asset record you may include as much or as little about it as you'd like, including manufacturer, model number, serial number, status, department information, and more. And in ProCal over here on the left, or on the right, you may include calibration schedules. ProCal has the ability to manage as many schedules as you want. You can call them whatever you want, and every schedule that you set up can be defined by its own unique day interval that it takes place on. And based off the schedule on the last date of calibration, the software can automatically calculate the next due date for calibration. The way that these lists in ProCal are pre-populated is through the list menu on the top here. The first thing that a user should do when creating ProCal records is create your list options. And as an example, if we start with Calibration Frequencies, this is the area in which you would establish your calibration schedules or any scheduling basis information in ProCal. You may click here to view the actual list that you have in the system, and to add a new one you would just click the New button, give it a name, and it may be defined for every day, week, month, or even years. It may also be kept on the end of the month or not, and the system also has the ability to roll the date forward if the actual event date is within either a certain number of days of the event date or the calendar month of the scheduled event date. Back on the Instruments record section here, furthermore on the next tab for ProCal, for Calibration Points, this is where you would set up the calibration specifications that an asset has. In ProCal, you may have as many tests defined to an asset as you would like to. The way that you would do this is you would click the Add Group button. It now says 5 of 5. We will call this an example. And as an example, let's say we were doing 10 points of calibration. I type 10, and you'll notice that the grid on the bottom starts building. You would then select from your signal type option here what it is that you're testing. In this particular example, we are going to say we were doing a millimeters test on this gauge, so we would select millimeters. This list of signal types is defined by the user, so ProCal will manage anything because you can click the New button. You would then define how many points of resolution you plan on going out to. ProCal can support you out to 8. In this example, we'll stay with 4. And we'll say we're going to test 0 to 500 millimeters. You would put your in and out range values. Your correlation to output can then be linear, manual, or square root. And for this particular example, it would be linear. And then your stated accuracy may be a plus-minus variable, or a percentage of the range, the reading, or even the reading range, or a manual variable based on the asset and your specifications. In this particular example, we will stay with a plus-minus of 0.005. When the user enters this and clicks Calculate Auto Assign, ProCal will automatically calculate your nominal values here on the left and each point spec limit at both low and high on the right. Please note this is not where a calibration takes place. This is the master record that will manage the engineering and calibration specifications. The spec limits over here on the right are then used when you enter a calibration on the calibration button here on the left, so that all a user has to do is enter his as found and as left readings, and ProCal can automatically tell you if you are in or out of tolerance. Calibration information will be covered in a later training video. Furthermore, if you'd like to update your specs, over here on the left, let's say you don't need 0, you need 22.5196. When I tab off over here on the right hand side, you'll now notice that the spec limits have been updated. ProCal can support the math so that you don't have to do it. On the next tab for additional information, you can include just that. A location to building hierarchy that you would like to define to keep track of where things are. Who may be responsible, a physical location, an instrument cost, as well as vendors who sell or even service anything. And as an example, if Prime Technology sold you this gauge, you can list your vendors from the drop-down, list your vendors here, select Prime Technologies, and if he sold you gauges, you could give them a call. Furthermore, in addition, ProCal can also set up information for compliance reports, and the compliance report section is down here. And for any asset, you can establish upon an as found, a failed, or even a late calibration event that occurs, a compliance report can be automatically generated. And so in this particular gauge, we're going to say on an as found failure, a compliance report should be automatically generated, and ProCal can automatically have it routed to the appropriate person or people to review the details. User-defined fields are also available for master records here. And on the next tab for PM info, ProCal will not only keep calibration schedules, but any additional event schedule that you would like to manage. PMs or maintenance activity is defined by the user, which we will cover in another training video. But maintenance activity is defined by the user, and so therefore it can be anything you want, like a wipe down, a demand calibration, a standard PM, maintenance activities, and more. Notes can also be added to your master records. Every time a note is entered, it will capture who entered it, the date and time stamp, and the note that they put into the system. Documents that correlate to the asset can be managed here, in addition to approval policies. Further details on approval policies will be covered in another training video. With your master records, you may also create templates, or if you would like, you can clone records, because once you've created a record, you can click this copy or clone button, and when you've done that, it will carry everything that you've done and created about this record to an entirely new record, where all the user has to do is apply an asset ID and a serial number, and the first and last date of calibration data will blank out. But everything else will carry over so that you don't have to waste time manually re-entering all of the information and calibration specifications that you've set up. Additionally, on the speed buttons along the top, this is the Add New button, Save, Copy or Clone, Find a Record, Lists, Cancel Your Changes, Print the Report, Preview, Show History, and if we show history, ProCal will tell you any time a calibration took place for the device, closing the record, or accessing the user manual. If your company or organization is ever audited, an auditor may want to see what you've done to an item, where you can, from this point of view, show the events. And if we select Show Events, you'll now get the event history screen for ProCal. And you may select a date range. In this particular example, we'll say 3 years. And any and all event types may be selected. And by clicking Refresh, ProCal will tell you everything that was done to the item, from calibration activities, status updates, location changes, maintenance, and more. You may print it here too if you would like to. More information about your master records is included in the user manual. Please refer to the user manual.
For more information, please visit Technical.